We're going live. It says we're going live. And if this doesn't work, then hi guys, it's Veronica Bartolini with Codebreaker Real Talk, and I'm having problems here with the camera. But we have Erin, Elizabeth, and Tom Althouse. So let me get this going here. Welcome, Erin, to the show.
Because I can't see through you at the moment. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me and asking me to come on the show. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. I just knew that I knew you, and I reached out. So what I wanted to thank you, Tom, for being on. What I wanted to do is here's Jordan coming up. What I want to do is turn on my light. Well, I wanted to talk to you about. Hey, I know you somehow. Hey, Susan, I invited Susan too. So, Erin, go ahead and tell your story as to how you came about to be, or not to be, because we could be anything. But how did you realize that you were in these programs? Thank you.
Well, when I was really young, it was like I always kind of knew, like something in me just always kind of let me know that something was going on, but that nobody was really talking about it, and I never knew. And plus, I was a kid, so you're just a kid. Being a kid, you're not thinking about things like that. But so when I was 5 years old, also I can't see Tom either. I can't see either of you.
Oh, that is so weird. Can you go on to the YouTube channel, Veronica Bartolini's
there you are.
Codebreaker?
Okay,
good.
So when I was 5 years old, and I lived at Sutherland Springs, Texas, and I used to go to church with my neighbors. They would take me and we would go, and I'd always have a good time, and we were friends. We were all friends and everything. Everything seemed normal. But one day I went, and as I'm walking out of this church, there was no one there. There was no people. There was no cars. There was nothing there. And I wasn't afraid, but I was really just confused at like, how is this happening? What's going on? And so I remember I think I walked around the church building like 3 times, and I couldn't find anyone. And I thought, well, I have to get home somehow. And there was this woman, like I didn't see the woman appear like out of, the air or anything like that, but I saw this woman there. So I was like, okay, good, she can help me. And so I walked up to her and I explained to her what happened. I said, hey, I was just here with my neighbors, but I can't find anybody and there's no cars. And she was like, well, come with me and I can help you. And so she took me, she asked me my name, where I lived at, and I don't even know, like I can't even remember even if I knew my address or anything like that. I don't think that I did. But I told her the name of my neighbors, and she was like, well, I can get you there. So I got into the vehicle with her. I can't remember what type of vehicle that it was, but so I got into her vehicle, and I do not remember the conversation at all that she was having with me. And as a matter of fact, I don't even remember saying a lot at all. But so she was driving. I was so small that, like I couldn't even see out the window, so I couldn't tell where I was. And so we drove a little ways. After we drove a little ways, she pulled over and she took me out of her vehicle, and I got into my neighbor's vehicle. And then my neighbor, who, I'm assuming she was my real neighbor, she took me to my house. And when I got home, everything still just seemed kind of normal, like at first, and I was just glad to be home. But the story that the neighbor said to my parents was that they forgot to bring me. And I don't know if that woman is even still alive, so there would be no way really that I could ask her, more details about what she remembered. And the rest of the day just seemed kind of like a normal day. I remember the next day though, I had this feeling, it was a really kind of a strange feeling that I was like, I felt like I was missing from a group of people. And it, it took me for my whole life to, really realize what was going on in that situation, that, like I believe it was an abduction. But that was the first thing in my life that happened, that made me feel like, okay, something really is going on. I remember after that happened, I created an imaginary friend that I could talk to about, like what's going on, and we could try to figure it out together. And so that, like, I had that friend for a long time until we moved away. And after we moved, I kind of never really thought about it anymore because I was doing different things and meeting new people and stuff like that. I had this other experience when I was 8 years old. I was in a car accident, and when that happened, I went into a coma. And I don't remember exactly how long I was in the coma, but I went into the coma in December of 1990, and then I come out of the coma in 1991. At that time, I had to relearn how to do everything. Like I couldn't speak, walk, do anything, I had a traumatic brain injury. And I just had to relearn how to do everything. It was really hard work. But I did it, and I had to go through a lot of recovery and stuff, but I finally got to go home. Something strange about that was, the whole thing, my whole life's been really strange, but after that happened, when I got home at night, I would hear big band music really loudly, and it sounded like it was coming out of the ceiling, which I have I now know there's like a thing in my ear, like right there, and it feels like a little bead, so I don't know if that's an implant or if that actually is just like a part of my body, like if the cartilage is weird, but I don't know. I have to get someone to look at it, but so I started to hear this music every night, and I would think that it was like my grandparents with the radio on in their room, and it always was just this one song. I never knew the name of the song until like a year ago when I was researching something completely unrelated, but the song just showed itself to me. And so it's a song it's the Harry James Orchestra and Helen Forrest. It's called I've Heard That Song Before. So that was good to find the name of that song finally, but it was always just that one song. Also, like, I remember after that happened, and like my grandmother, she says she can remember this too, that after I was home for, I don't remember exactly how long I was home for, but we started seeing all these lights and everything, around our house. I think that something crashed in one of the bayous by our house, like down the road. And it was strange because we went to go, check it out the next day to see what was going on. And it was like everything was gone. Everything was removed. So these are like the first things that happened to me when I was very young, that relate to me finding out, about the programs and stuff. But honestly, really the way that I found out about being in the programs was that people started to find me online, and they were telling me that they remembered me from the programs. Alondra Markman says he remembers me from the programs, and Arkeem Ra. There's more people too. And it's funny because it's like I don't have memories of being in the programs or any of these missions or anything, but there definitely is, like the energetic connection, like when you meet someone and that something's going on. So I guess it was other people telling me that they remembered me. So once I had that information, I was able to link up so many things that had happened to me during my life, and be like, okay, that's probably what that was. another experience I had that was pretty weird. And this happened when I was probably like 20 or 21, but I was home one night by myself, and my brother and his girlfriend come over, and I wasn't expecting any company. I didn't know anybody was coming over. And so anyway, someone's knocking at the door, and I let them in, and I was like, hey, y'all come in, and sit down, we'll hang out. So I was not planning to go anywhere, did not know I was going to leave the house. So I remember that I did not even have shoes on. But so they come over. When they walked into my house, we began to talk. Before we even had time to sit down, there was this Picasso, and I forget the name of the art piece, but it's a black and white Picasso, and it's like it's the really long piece. I forgot what it's called, but I wish I could remember.
Is it Starry Night?
Like it didn't. I'm sorry?
Is it Starry Night?
Hello?
Yes, is it Starry Night by Van Gogh?
No, it's not Starry Night. This is it's a black and white. I'll get the information and I will send it to you, because that's important too, because when I found it, when I was researching and I started, it has the name war in it. I know that, okay. Or it pertains to war. It's something along those lines. But this thing, and I had like a really big, like a big screen TV. This was it was one of the really big ones, like the big boxy ones. So it come off the wall. It just like protruded off the wall. We all watched it. It was the three of us. We watched this happen. It come off the wall. It spinned around in some circles clockwise, and then it landed in front of the mantle of the fireplace, like the mantle of the fireplace, and then there's bricks here. It landed right there, right side up. And so from there, like we just ran. We left the house. We can remember, because I talked to my brother about this, like, maybe like a year ago. I was like, do you remember this the way that I remember it? And he said, yes. So we ran out of the house, and we must have gotten into his car to leave, but he can't remember, and I can't remember leaving, where we went, or me getting home. And so that was another thing that was really weird. So, I don't know. That could have also been another abduction.
Yeah, Erin, let me go. I want you to keep talking, but let me go back real quick. That thing about the TV swirling or whatever, that is actually beings coming in through a wormhole, whether it's military or alien, okay? Because it happened to me in the astral. It was my daughter. She was in front of the mirror. She was tied up, and then there was another her doppelganger or twin of her. It was my same daughter. She was in front of this old Victorian flippy, ground mirrors. And so what I did is I took her and I flipped the mirror up, and the mirror twirled and twirled, and it went up to the ceiling, and bam, the next thing you know, the bronze ravens came through with the short, whether you believe it or not, there's these short little keen cherubs that have a crown on their head. Everyone was bronze, and they were fighting. And they were throwing these boomerangs in this experience. So I write about it. I wrote about it in my third book. So anyway, but going back to that to me, I see that it was some kind of portal opening up or wormhole. That's what I see. And then also, yes, it was a military abduction to get you into the My Labs, to get your hearing tested, getting your blood, just to make sure, pretty much tag you to see where else have you been around the universe. I was in the Bionic Woman program as well, and I posted it just recently on Instagram. And it was a friend of mine, just like you, came a few years ago, Consuela from the UK, and she's like, or Canada, she's like, hey Veronica, I rescued you. You had your 2 legs blown, your left arm, your half your face, and I took you to your Starr family because so and so, I'm not going to mention who, but it's in the book, said that it was not worth saving you, but she saved me, and this was through the Mars explosion or whatever. And then the other day, I'm not kidding, it's probably AI, but I was surfing through. I had just seen. I was done writing, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch something, and bam, Bionic Woman comes up. So I have a feeling that you're also part of the Bionic Woman. I have the sonar ear thing. They would always take me out of class to do my hearing and take me to different, on the bus, the yellow bus, right? Different universities. I ended up in libraries. I mean, I was even taken out for ESL. So that's a cover program. What they did to you, I don't know, Susan, but I feel you were also part of the Bionic Woman program. Also, let's see, the orbs are actually, I have them here. They're military. They're to watch us. So, okay, go on with how you put this together, Erin. Thank you.
And what you were just saying about the MyLabs and, to get your blood or your DNA and everything, that reminds me of something else I wanted to say about something else that happened after the coma that was really strange, is that also, like, when I woke up from the coma, like, not at that exact instance, it probably was after I got home and after, like, I was hearing the music and everything, but I had never heard about genetic research. I had never heard about, there was no like ancestry.com, because this was 1991. I have to plug in my phone 1 second.
That's fine.
But I become really like super obsessed with researching my genetics, and I couldn't explain it because, no one had ever like had a conversation with me about anything like that, but it was something that I really wanted to do. And so I was doing that on my own, which it didn't, I wasn't able to do a whole lot, because that was before that everybody was using the internet and stuff like that. Like I said, this was like the early 90s. But in researching my genetics, I found a lot of really interesting things about my genetics, once I was able to use the internet, like Admiral Byrd.
Yes.
Is in my genetics. He was not a grandfather of mine, but he's in my family tree. So yeah, like my 7th great grandfather, who was Colonel William Byrd, so they were like one of the first families of Virginia, was also Admiral Byrd's grandfather as well. My 7th grandfather, his 4th grandfather. I found Robert the Bruce in my genetics, and I found my connection to Turtle Clan also in my genetics. So Chief Suncloud and Queen Redwing were grandparents of mine. And so it's just, and then it's been great because it's been like, once I really started researching and finding out more, it was like, it started to get like, I knew I had help. Like I knew that somebody was helping me out because it started to get so much easier. And that's like right now today, like there's times where I don't even have to open a book, get on the internet or anything. I can just like focus on something that I'm trying to figure out. And it's like, I guess these are just downloads, and I get these information, and when I was talking about Arcane Raw, one of the projects that he talks about that he was in was Project Phoenix, and I don't know a whole lot about the details about Project Phoenix, but
you know what, Erin, I know you from Project Phoenix. I was there. Susan, were you there? And then whatchamacallit, I used to talk to Eve Howard. She stopped talking to me all of a sudden, but I don't know why. I had her on my show, and I was part of the Phoenix Project with Max Beers, James Caswell, I think Susan, So I wonder if that's where I know you from, Erin, and also the Bionic Woman. Okay, but go ahead. Well, thank you, Johnny, for being on.
But I recognize
I know that if we know maps. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Susan.
I recognize your voice, and I think you need to go look at a picture of the original Bionic Woman, because yeah, you kind of look like her.
Yeah.
Wow. I'll go look at that. I will. Thank you, Susan. I wanted to tell you, there's this show that's on Discovery Channel. They have a show called Gold Rush, and then they have another show that branches off of that. It's called Gold Rush Mine Rescue. And so I've been married 3 times. And so the third person that I was married to, his dad, his father, was, he like, I don't know if he wanted to be on the show or if they asked him to be on the show. However that happened. And I had only met him once, like very briefly. So I didn't really know him at all. But in May, it was May 2023. And he was said, hey, Dad wants us to come up to Arizona, so that I can be on the show with him. And I had so many things to take care of at the house, and that I was like, well, have fun, and I'm really happy for you. But he was like, no, I really want you to go. And I was like, because I already had plans to go do something else. I was going to go see a show. And the person who was the director of Gold Rush kept calling my husband and saying, we really want y'all to be, or they weren't saying y'all like me included, but for him, the person who was my husband, to be on the show. And so anyways, I mean, that part of it's kind of a long story, so I don't want to go all into that. But what ended up happening was this. I gave up my concert tickets. I was like, I'll sacrifice, me going to see this show that I really wanted to go see so that we can go and, do this, and you can have this opportunity with your dad and, to be on the show. And so we went up there. I did not think I was going to be on the show. Did not even really want to, but the director so it was like the first day that I was there, that the film crew and everybody was shooting. And the director came up to me and he was just like, he said, and I thought he was joking, I had no idea what was supposed to happen. And he was like, hey, Erin, do you want to be the star of the show? And I thought he was joking. So I was joking. And I was like, sure, of course I do. And so anyway, they put me on the show. I was not prepared. I already was really going through a lot with just many, many things, but I try to not focus at all on anything negative, just like to stick to the, the information. But anyways, it was so weird. It was so weird. So whatever everything about Project Phoenix was, that was part of it. Somehow I can't explain it. It was so strange. It was so strange. Like, that is where I was, like, when the veil truly lifted and I started to see many people I knew very differently. That's when my research just started basically doing itself. And I mean, that was crazy. That was crazy there. So we flew to Dallas, then we flew to Phoenix. The Phoenix airport was so weird. It was so weird. So I was already super uncomfortable. The flights, like, I thought I was gonna die on every flight. Not the Delta flight, but the Southwest flight was absolutely horrible, especially the one coming back. But and then so after they did the show, I had to shoot for 8 days. Discovery or it was also Discovery Channel plus Raw TV UK, which I'd never even heard of in my life, but they were the actually ones filming the show. So it wasn't Discovery's, like, it wasn't their own project. It's a UK film production. But and it's really like all of that, I do want to share all those details with y'all, but I don't want to share that with everyone at this time. But it's really strange. And so it was just crazy. And so after I got back from that, when my dreams, like after I got back from Arizona, every night, this happened every night in my dream for at least 3 weeks in a row. I was probably in the only thing I could think of is that it was a ship, because it was very white, bright. There were other people there with me, but I could not see them. And we did not talk, but I could hear them all speaking to each other. And they would give reports each time, and they would be very excited because they would say, okay, now we have, this many more people on board. And I wish I could remember, and I wrote down a lot of this stuff, but I've moved around so many times since then that I don't have all my notes anymore. But that happened. And then after that happened, so I had those dreams every night for a very, very long time. I would write down even the number of people that they would say were on board. But after that dream, I started to have this other dream every single night, and it was a dream of,
sorry,
it
Erin.
would just be me, like,
Real quick.
yes.
I was on the Space Shuttle Endeavour. I do have memories. Did you said you couldn't see the people? Because when I was, okay, there was this dream that I had that I was like, I think it was in Mexico. It looked like Mexico. I was asking, where's the electric company? Okay, because I don't know about you guys, but I have an affinity for electricity. There was a thing that hit, what's it called? Lightning that hit right in front of me as a child. Like I was like maybe 4. So in this dream, I'm asking, hey, where's the electric company? And I end up in a very old, like run down kind of like home, but it kind of looks like a bar area too. And then they said, oh, well, keep walking. And I finally found it. And then I get on, and it's a shuttle. I'm in the space shuttle, but it has 3 rows. Like if we're on a bus, and it's white, right, inside. Then the next dream is like, oh, there's like all this electricity around me. And then I see a man, and he has his head going down like that. But then I hear the voice, oh no, I'm electricity again. So I don't know if it could be part of that, if that is also part of the Phoenix Project. I'm not sure about that. But that popped in my mind. And then when you said about the song, what they use, when I try my hardest not to go to sleep until I'm ready, because I have like really bad chronic PTSD. So maybe 4 in the morning, 5, I'll finally go to sleep. But the song that pops up is the Bee Gees song that I've talked about before. Night Fever. Okay. That one automatically, when I start hearing it, I fight it so hard. But then boom, I'm gone. So either I'm under the water, the ocean, the other day I posted a dream about the ocean, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm thinking that that's kind of like how they call us to these programs, is different songs.
I think so too.
Yeah. Go ahead and talk, guys. I'm going to plug in my laptop. I'll be right back. Thank you. Go ahead, guys.
I had a question for you, Erin. When you pointed to your right ear, did you hear the music only in your one ear, or was it filling your mind? Your head?
No, when I heard it, it sounded, and like I said, it was so loud that I thought it was a radio in the house. So it was definitely, I could hear it both ears, but it sounded like, it took me a few nights, because this happened for maybe a month straight, every single night. At first I thought it was a radio, but then I was like, where is this sound coming from, when I found out that it wasn't a radio? But it did sound that it was coming from above me, like from in the ceiling, and there was no even attic in that house. So it's very strange. Oh, also this, another thing that happened. And so after the coma, and that I was 8 years old when that happened. I wanted to tell you another really strange thing that happened This was when I was maybe 9 or 10 years old, or maybe I was in 3rd grade, so I think I was probably 9 or 10. And we were still living in the same area that we lived with, when I was hearing the music come out the ceiling, but it was a different house. This was like an old farmhouse. I remember one night, okay, also this began to happen after I saw the movie Communion. And I don't know if I was supposed to watch Communion. It was like one night I couldn't sleep. And so I asked my mom, I was like, hey, is there anything I can watch? And she gave me a VHS. And she's like, yeah. And so she had recorded a documentary about a family who lived in Alaska. And I think it was like a, PBS or something like that, documentary. So I was watching that. And I was still awake. I still couldn't sleep. So I watched all of the documentary, and then what was next on the VHS was Communion. And I watched the whole movie. And I don't know. I'm not saying that was what caused this, me getting information or just anything from that. But and also I was like when I was a kid, I was not scared really of anything except for aliens. Like aliens really freaked me out. But when I watched Communion, I didn't turn it off. I wasn't afraid. I was just like kind of, truly interested in the story. So that happened. And I wish I had the dates of all of this. One day I will have the dates of all of this. But one day this happened in that house. My aunt and her husband come over, and she gave me a kite and my brother a kite. And my kite was a Disney Little Mermaid kite. And so me and my brother, we were out in the yard, and we were trying to like get the wind, to pick up our kites. And the wind was blowing some. It would start to pick them up, but then they just fall and they'd start bouncing. So he went inside. Well, I was like super determined because I really love the kite. I just wanted to see it flying. We had a circle driveway, and it was unpaved. So it was just like dirt, a little bit of rocks, and, like some trees and stuff around. And I was super determined. I said to myself, I was like, I will make this kite fly. This kite is going to fly. I saw a wind tunnel form halfway across the circle drive. I was over here in the grass. I was not standing on the driveway. I was in the grass. But I saw this wind tunnel form. It come all the way. I watched it. It was probably about 6 feet tall. I watched it come all the way around the circle drive. When it got to where I was, it got off of the driveway into the grass where I was, and it took the kite so far up, and it was so strong. I was trapped inside of this wind tunnel, and I was happy. I was really happy. I was really excited that my kite was flying, but I didn't want to lose my kite because I had just gotten it that day, so I was holding on to it really strong. Well, when it finally pulled it away from me, and it took it up into like the tallest tree on the other side of the road, and that kite was there it stayed there for years. When that happened, I don't really think I thought anything about it. I was kind of really just, I was being just, a kid. I was like sad about, oh, my kite got stuck in this tree, but I don't think I ever even told anyone the story of that happening as far as like telling my family. After that happened though, a little while later, maybe a few months, our house, so it would be me, my mom, and my 2 little brothers. Inside of our house, we had like where our kitchen was, there was a door. On the other side of that door, there was like 2 steps down, and it went into a laundry room. I don't believe that laundry room had a door to the outside. I think it was just the door to the laundry room, and that was like the back of the house. But that door, we would wake up, that door would be open. One of my brothers was just a baby, so it wasn't him, and and it was none of us. We were not doing this. So this door would be open. Well, my mom, and she wasn't scared either. She wasn't scared. She just kind of, and she wouldn't talk about it really. But she started to lock the door. There was a lock on the door, and so she would begin to lock it. Well, we'd wake up, it would be open again. And So she'd close it before we went to sleep, lock it again. Every single morning, this door would be unlocked and open. And then so she started to close the door, lock the door, and to put a chair, like she would wedge this chair under the door. And when that happened, so we would wake up in the morning, the door would be open and the chairs would be moved like all around weird places in there. And so that happened. And it eventually stopped. I remember, like, I would stay awake at night, even if I had school in the morning, you know, like I would stay awake because I was really trying to figure out, like, what is going on? How is this happening? And I would never hear anything. So it would only happen if we were all asleep. And we never heard any noise of, like, the noise of it never woke us up. And so it would be like these chairs would be all moved around, but we couldn't hear them. And then also another thing that happened in that house was that we had this tornado that just come out of nowhere. It come out of nowhere. We weren't having any bad weather. The house was not even in, like, I don't know. I know there's some places that they call them like a tornado alley where it'll just be, you know, it'll go through just like one specific area. But I mean, we hadn't experienced anything like that before. So this tornado, we were all outside and this wind started picking up. It started getting like really crazy out there. We all went in the house. My mom got like a mattress off of a bed. We were all in the hall, you know, trying to stay safe. And so after that happened, I went outside and we were looking around and we were just like really in disbelief. Like, how did all of this happen? And how did it happen so quickly? Well,